accidentally killed it. I have two stories to tell in today's episode that emphasize two very different meanings of that expression. I think I can squeeze them both in. We'll see. Hello, and welcome to My Daily Walk, the show where a Hollywood guy, that's me, walks around and talks about anything and everything except the things I'm contractually bound to conceal. If you want to add your voice to the discussion, your thoughts to the record, please email me at MyDailyWalk@thiswaytv.com, and I will read your emails on the show on Fridays, maybe Saturdays at some point. And once that becomes too burdensome, I won't read your emails, so get your emails in now. If this is your first time listening, let me break down the structure of the show. It's every day I release a half-hour episode of My Daily Walk. Each day of the week, Monday through Saturday, is a different theme. Mondays are a meditation on a spiritual subject, usually taken from an ancient text, Old Testament, New Testament. I actually do have one from the Quran that I want to talk about at some point, maybe soon. But Mondays are a meditation. That's the theme on Mondays. Tuesdays, which is today, is a life lesson. I talk about a story or multiple stories from my life, and maybe it's interesting, maybe I've learned something, and maybe I'll learn something by reminiscing or re-walking through the events. Life lessons, Tuesdays. Wednesdays is just a topic. It's topical. I got a list of topics. I don't think I'll ever run out, and that's reserved for Wednesdays. Thursdays, which has been expressed by my one listener to date as her favorite, is Hollywood themed Thursday. So that one listener is my mom. Hi, Mom. She's the one who's giving me feedback, sending me emails to date. It's been a one-on-one conversation, which I've been enjoying. And if this show becomes a show with an audience, then that one-on-one will become a more of a public dialogue. But for now, it's just the two of us, which I'm enjoying very much. But Thursdays I talk about what I've been doing as a career for the last decade and a half. I don't know exactly how long. I should work it out and figure it out. But so, man, I am really, really babbling. Sorry about that, folks. But that's Thursdays. Fridays is Freeform Friday. I read emails. I just hit record and just start talking. I don't think about a topic ahead of time. I just see where the discussion, where the monologue, where the extemporaneous diarrhea of the mouth takes the subject matter. That's Freeform Fridays. Now Saturdays is very different. It's just whatever. Like I've something will happen. I'm like, let's do a Saturday free stuff about this, and I'll hit record. It's not the 30-minute structure. They're generally shorter, sometimes much shorter, but that's just Saturday free stuff. There it is. That's what the week looks like. All right, without further ado, accidentally killed it. I think it was like 9, 10, maybe 11. And I was visiting my father. My parents, again, if this is your first time listening, my parents split when I was young, and sometimes I would bounce in between them. And I believe this was just on a weekend visit. Visiting my father, and he was, his neighbor, or our neighbor, was a poet, a carpenter, etc., but he was also a poet, and he was publishing a book with some friends of his, some other poets. So they each wrote a section, what's the is it an anthology or is it a compilation? I don't know what do you call it when multiple people go in on a book together. So he was one of the poets featured in this book of poetry, and they were having a poetry reading. I guess it was a book release, their official release celebration poetry reading, and it was in the country. We lived in the country, and so it was just this like cabin in the woods. Now I say that and you picture this cabin standing alone, surrounded by trees. There are communities that are very rural that you could. So it was. I believe it was a private home, but it had this huge room, and they had seats arrayed. And I'm a kid going to listen to poetry. Maybe that I don't recall enjoying the poetry. It was adult poetry. I mean, not pornographic or anything, but they were adults talking about adult things, kind of like this podcast. I don't expect any 9, 10, or 11-year-old kids to listen to this podcast because it's a mature content or adult subject matter that's just not interesting when you're that young. And so it was one of those occasions where it's like, all right, I'll go along. I'll walk around. I couldn't walk off into the woods or anything, but I'll try and keep myself busy. Here's a cracker and cheese. Do that and get a sip of lemonade or something, and then something out of the corner of my eye scurries across the floor. What was that? I chase it down, and lo and behold, there's this tiny, tiny little mouse with a long tail. Tiny, cutest thing, and probably the size of, maybe half the size of a golf ball or a ping pong ball. Really small, fluffy, but a long tail. The tail was probably 4 times the length of the body, at least. Scurries across the floor into the corner, and I'm in hot pursuit. And it's going under a table. It's going here and there. I'm scoping out the territory, making sure there's no hole it could disappear into, so that when I corner it, it's not going to just get away from me and I will never see it again. My goal was to capture this thing and to admire it. It was beautiful to me, just this gorgeous creature. You know where this is going. Oh, yep. So I get it cornered, and then it scurries across the floor, and I'm like, all I need to do is jump out in front of it and cup it into my hands. And I jump out in front of it, and I get down, and I bring my hand down. It's going in a straight line toward this wall, and I bring my hand down, and I'm not slamming it down. I'm just bringing it down swiftly, and I bring my hand down right in front of it, right as it arrives at my hand. And I lift my hand up, and it's motionless. And I'm shocked, and instantly, not instantly, but as it dawns on me that my innocent endeavor to capture this amazing creature led to its demise, that I was responsible for killing this baby mouse. My only desire was to admire it, to hold it, and to pet it, let it crawl on me. All I intended was to take some pleasure and some joy in a living thing. We love humans tend to like animals, and I killed it. I accidentally killed it. It stands out to me as a seminal kind of moment. The guilt the responsibility. I was responsible for, it's a shock. It's like you think, oh, now it's going to be exciting, and now I get to play with it, and you killed it, and you'll never get to play with it. And so there it is. That's one of the stories. It's the shorter one. That I killed it. I accidentally killed it. So what's the lesson we can learn from that? I don't know. Just be careful. We always do things that we I shouldn't say always, but on occasion we, in our enthusiasm and excitement, are not as cautious as we need to be, and then we end up being the very cause of rendering the opposite of what we intended. All right, we have a sincere, noble, even moral intent sometimes, and by our own fumbling and bumbling and missteps, render the opposite. You bring about sorrow and trauma and tragedy, or even just inconvenience or frustration, or so. There, that's the simple lesson from that one, I guess. Accidentally killed it. Well, here's another story. And this is a big disclosure that I've thought long and hard about whether I should ever even disclose this, but here we go. So I got a job. First job after I was fired, and I shared this in a previous episode called Today Was Your Last Day Here. I think that was the episode title. Today Was Your Last Day Here. So the second job, because then that was also two stories, that episode. The second job, after I was let go, fired, and sued and got my settlement. If you've listened, if you haven't, maybe that'll be interesting to you. The first job I got after that was on a reality TV show as an editor, and I think there were 10 editors on this show, and there's lots of episodes, and so they would give each editor an episode to work on, and so I was back in the mix, because the other job I had worked at was not really Hollywood. It was a boutique production company that nobody there had ever really worked in television. Like one guy, maybe two guys had worked on a movie or two, but as far as television, nobody really had experience. But this now is back in the mix of where I had worked before, working amongst some TV editors, a reality TV show. And so one day I'm in the hallway and I'm chatting with a couple of my new editor friends, and they were talking about music, and they like the same kind of music I like, so you bond with people, you connect with people on things that you have in common, and we're talking, and I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but they made it known that they were in a band, and I had been in a band when I was in high school, and I had always wanted to be, I always wanted to be a guitar player, but never had the discipline to learn. But I like singing, so I was a singer when I was 17 years old in my senior year of high school in a heavy metal band. But so I just mentioned to them, I was in a band way back when I was in high school, and both of them, when I said that, both of them just kind of stop and look at me, and one of them says, "Really? What instrument do you play?" I'm like, I don't play an instrument. I was just the singer, and both of them, it was almost like if they had gotten quiet, they got quieter. It's almost like you could script it. They'd kind of look at each other and then look back at me. I don't know if they actually did that, but that's the way it felt. And turns out that this band that they were in was fairly new. I mean, they'd been practicing for several months, and they had their very first gig had been scheduled, and it had been scheduled, and it turns out their singer quit like 3 weeks prior to the gig, and so they had to cancel the gig. And all of this was very recent. It was within the past few months prior to this conversation. And I'm like, well, we need a singer. I'm like, okay. And so they're like, what can you sing? I'm like, I don't know. I'll sing. I picked a couple songs, a couple of classic rock songs, and we went into the bathroom at work, and I'm just singing a cappella for these two guys, and they kind of look at each other, okay. And then the one guy who was kind of the band leader gives me a CD with a bunch of original tracks. There's no lyrics, no vocals. There's just guitar, bass, and drums. And it's like kind of 80s heavy metal. I'm like, okay, this is all right. And so they said, here comes another helicopter. Pause for helicopter. Straight over the top of me. Sorry about that. I'll make sure I wave them around next time. So they say, hey, maybe you can write some lyrics. And that's another thing. I had written poetry and lyrics when I was younger, and so over the next couple days, on my lunch break, I take a walk and I put in my earbuds and listen and just meditate on the feel of the music. And I wrote lyrics for 2 songs, two of those, like 10 or 11 tracks. So then they take me probably by the next week into the garage and they blast the music in their car and open the door, and then I sing at the top of my lungs, my version of this song, and they kind of look at each other, yeah. So then they invite me to practice. The third bandmate who did not work with us, it's the first time I met him was at practice. So I was all right. Now, here I am. I'm a working dad. Got 3 kids at home. There's an disclosure. I don't think I ever mentioned how many kids I have. And we're working a job, and I'm like, why am I joining a band? Well, in my mind, I had just gotten fired from a job, and I just, got my foot in the door on this show, which was, was a good get for me. It was like, okay, I'm back in the mix. And the way you got to do it in this town is you got to network, you got to meet people, make friends, and when a show is over, everybody goes to another show somewhere. Everybody goes in different directions, and if you have friends, they're gonna say, oh, they needed an editor on this show that I'm on, will you come along? You just got to network. And so for me, it was like, oh, well, these 2 guys are editors. They've been doing it actually longer. Both of them have been doing it longer than I have. They have lots more connections than I do, and they want me to be in the band with them. Okay, I think I can do that. And literally, that was my thought. It's like, well, it could be fun too, but that's a networking opportunity. If I'm in a band with them and this show ends and they go off and the singer of their band is out of a job and struggling, and he might not be able to be in their band. Well, they might work extra hard to get me a job. Jeez, another helicopter. How much time do I have to get through this? Oh, plenty. All right. So we go to practice, and we're trying songs. I'm coming up with a list, and everybody's suggesting songs, and we're practicing and trying out some different songs. We get to a set list of enough songs to cover about a half an hour to 45 minutes of live entertainment, and then they book a gig. It's like, oh my gosh, we're gonna play live at a bar in front of actual people. I haven't done that in a long time, since I was a teenager. So it was a little surreal. And that's the real test. It's like, well, we can practice and think we're good, but the real test is when you play live in front of people, friends and strangers, and read the room. Right? If you're halfway intelligent and you play a gig and everybody's kind of quiet and just watching, you know any applause is just polite. So, I mean, I wasn't nervous. Yeah, I was nervous. I always, whenever I get up in front of people for anything, it doesn't matter how many times, whether I'm, speaking at something or, I've had plenty of opportunities at public speaking, and every time I get nervous, no matter how often. There's that anticipation, self-doubt, did I prep enough, etc. And then you just channel that energy, and hopefully you do your best. So, boy, if you're still listening to this, good on ya, because I'm rambling and babbling. So, we booked this gig, and everybody invites all the friends and family and people at work, bunch of people at work, because it's like 3 editors on this show or in a band, and they're going to have their gig. So this tiny little dive bar is packed. I mean, it's, for a dive bar, it'd take 30 people to pack a dive bar, and there were probably 50 people there, but small space full of people. There's a band before us, and they were good. It was this group, high energy. They're all original music. At this point, we only had like 2 original songs, as ones that I wrote, and then a bunch of cover songs. So this band is playing in front of us, and really enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. Well, their fans were enjoying it. Our fans were enjoying it. People, and so it was a nice warm up for us. Like, okay, and then we got to set up, and it's our turn. And here we go, moment of truth, and we launched into the set and made it through it. Because of the style of music, it's very energetic, very loud. My style is to throw myself completely into it, to emote, to use the space, to engage with the audience. So, it was a lively evening, and there were screams and shouts and sing-alongs for the lyrics that they knew. It was I'd say we accidentally killed it. Accidentally killed it. I totally stumbled into this band, and at my age and my station in life, why would I be in a band? I've got plenty of other things to occupy my time. But then it turns out well. And that's like one of the guys who came, he was actually our boss. He was actually the showrunner for the show, the reality show we were on. And he's like the first one there, like the #1 fan. These are his editors. He loves us all. And he wrote a review of it, and his review was titled something like, gosh, I don't remember what the title was, but one of the things he said in it, either in the opening or at the end, I don't remember. I have it somewhere, but he said it was like witnessing a man being born again. So here's a guy that knew me as one of his editors, and I'm a nice guy. I get along. I'm pretty personable, and that's how he knows me. And then he sees me on stage screaming at the top of my lungs and flailing about. Literally, I think I fell down and rolled around on stage at one point, and it kind of changes people's perspective of you when they see you perform in a way they've never seen. And so he being a music lover was critical of the music, as he should be, but like basically the comment was like, they've got something. If they keep at it, then this could turn into something or something like that. But his comments about me like a man being born again, it was another seminal moment in my life, because I'm still in that band and we write all original music now. We have like 12 songs. Some of them have been recorded, some of them are on Spotify. But we work at a very slow pace because we all have careers, jobs and families, and we don't gig very often. We don't play shows very often, but we write and record, and it's just gotten better and better. It's like, I accidentally killed it. I mean, who knows what will ever happen? It's always a pipe dream until it happens, right? It's always a pipe dream until you get a song on the radio or on the soundtrack of a movie or a TV show or something like that. It's like making money with music has changed dramatically over time, but I perform the same in our practices as I do on stage. I just enjoy the music we play, and I mean, I won't kill myself in practice, but if we're having a full practice, I'm singing exactly the way I sing in a show, and I'm loving every second of it. And the fact that anybody would want to come and listen and enjoy it is a bonus. It's just the icing on the cake. If anybody appreciates my art, it's almost surprising and shocking to me, because I enjoy it, and to me that's enough. Maybe that says something about art, that if the artist enjoys his own art. I don't know what that says about art, or email me at MyDailyWalk@thiswaytv.com to tell me what that says about art, if the artist really enjoys his own art. I don't know. I could sit and listen to our music and no other music. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that is, but the fact that other people like it too, that's a bonus. And where are we? Oh, I got 2 minutes left. So I thought of this topic or this subject matter based on that story about the mouse. When I'm like, oh, what would I call that story if I were going to tell it? Accidentally killed it. And that's when I thought of the other meaning of that expression, accidentally killed it. We killed it when we played that first gig. Not every gig was good, by the way, but they have gotten better and better, and bigger, and we've opened for known bands as well. But it's interesting how language can be used and misunderstood so easily if you don't know the context. Accidentally killed it has two totally different meanings that apply to different points in my life, different stories in my life. And there's that. That's just my creative insanity. Sometimes creativity comes across as just like, it's imagination. That's what creativity is. And when a kid is playing with his or her toys, and making up stories, that's just creating a world. And that's what creativity is. You can create a world that you can live in. It would be nice to be self-sustaining from the music, but who knows? We all, no matter how old we are, we're like, oh, maybe one day. The fact of the matter is, my guitar player has played in the biggest venues around the planet. Both my guitar player and my drummer have been in other bands who've actually played the biggest venues all around the world. So being in a band with guys like that, makes you think maybe you could someday too.